let me finish by talking a little bit about my staff. I'm thrilled to have TJ. TJ was being pulled in about 8 different directions when it came out that Coach McDermott was going to possibly go to Creighton. He was my first call. Jamie's right. When Jamie came up and talked to me, the first thing that I said to him was, my first call will be to TJ. I need TJ on my staff. I gave TJ the associate head coach title. TJ has been a very good recruiter. Okay, he's got some very good talent to come to Ames, and we will continue to do that. Jeff Grayer, I talked to Jeff this morning. Jeff will be on my staff. Jeff's a legend in this place. Jeff is the best player, okay, the best player to play at Iowa State University. And I'm thrilled to have him on my staff. The last couple spots, I'm not sure yet, okay? I got hired yesterday. I will get it figured out. One guy that I need to get on my staff is somebody that has a lot of experience. Okay? I really need that guy to spin in a head coaching chair. And that's what I'm going to shoot for. I'm going to go out and talk to a lot of people. I have a lot of friends in this business. Okay? I talked to Tim Floyd a lot. He's been a guy that I've talked to probably 5 times on the phone in these last couple of days. Gar Foreman, who's the general manager of the Bulls, who was an assistant coach when I was here. He's a guy that is very well connected in this business. Those guys have sent me lists. I can't tell you how many messages I've got saying, you need players, I got players for you. We have a guy on our Timberwolves staff that runs the biggest camp in Europe. I'm going to lean on him. I'd like to get a flow of European players in here if we can hit that market. So, I'm excited, guys. I can't even explain to you how excited I am. There's going to be nights in the next year where we might not be making shots as a team, but I promise you one thing. We're going to defend, we're going to play hard, and we're going to give you something proud to cheer about on a nightly basis. There was 2 pictures on the wall. One was Johnny Orr. Johnny had his arm wrapped around me, and he signed it to one of my all-time favorite players, Coach Johnny Orr. The other picture was my grandfather, and my grandfather coached at the University of Nebraska in the 50s and 60s. Actually, one of the greatest accomplishments was when he beat Wilt Chamberlain's Kansas team. The only other team to beat him that year was a team led by Gary Thompson to win that game. And it's a picture of my grandpa, and I hardly ever noticed that picture. And when I walked downstairs that day, it's a great picture of him where he's walking down the street and he's pointing and he's winking. And I looked at that picture that day, and it was almost as if he was saying to me, "Kid, you're going to be all right. Go get him. Do your best." Let's open it up for questions.
Fred, what were your first phone call? Like you said,
you 5 times you called me.
I know.
You left me a great message, Randy. Randy's last message was, I thought you picked up in a moment of weakness.
He learns quickly, doesn't he?
Yeah. Anyway, you didn't respond.
I know, I apologize.
So go over your conversation with Jamie 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it said that you expressed interest and potential in that.
Yeah, I did, and Jamie made a great choice that day. I know he had a plan, and I think he had that plan in place probably before I called him. I just said to Jamie, I want to get this program back in the right direction. I want to recruit the state. I want to get Iowa players back in the program, and I know I can do that. I know I can do it effectively. I think I can get the arena filled again and get the magic back in this place. And for me, I've always wanted to coach. I've been in the front office the past few years. I've had a couple opportunities to go on a couple NBA benches, but I decided to stay on the path that I was on. There was very few coaching positions that I felt would be a step, a progressive step in my career. Iowa State being one of them. So when Jamie called me, I was floored. I was floored when he told me that, Greg, had an opportunity to go and get long-term security at Creighton. And when he said that, do you have interest in a job? I said, absolutely, 100%. I'd love to sit down and talk to you about my plan. And he drove up the next day and we talked for about 3 hours at my kitchen table with my 14-year-old dog that I think people have rubbing up against. And we talked about the plan and the vision. And I thought that it went very well, thinking I might get a chance at a second interview. And he put a contract on the table and said, I'd like you to be the next coach at Iowa State University. And I can't tell you how excited I was at that point, and excited to come back and get this thing started. I'm going to have to go back and tie up some loose ends in Minneapolis here these next few days. This is a very important time in the NBA when we get ready for the draft. And the Timberwolves have 3 first-round picks and a lot of salary cap space to use this year. So I'm going to have to go back and help transition that on to some of the other staff members. When I get back here on Monday, I told TJ, I said, we're going to hit the ground running. There'll probably be a lot of sleep here in these first few weeks, laying out the plan, talking to the coaches, flying out and seeing our recruits, doing that type of thing. We're going to have to do that right away. And, you know, I'm just excited about that opportunity.
Media members, if you could raise your hand and get one of these wireless microphones to you, Bobby.
Bobby will just interview first. Congrats, Fred. Second, how long have you been developing this plan, and how much of it is set up to kind of deal with your lack of head coaching experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually been developing this plan for a long time. You know, even when I was playing, you know, my first year in the NBA, I didn't play a lot of minutes. I spent a lot of time with Larry Brown on the floor. That's one of Larry Brown's favorite things to do, was to go out and help develop his players. He would stay after. He would come before practice and work on the game with me. And Larry's pretty hard on rookies. You know, Travis Best, who was a point guard, was drafted in the first round of the year. I was a late second-round pick. We used to sit in the locker room probably an hour after practice was over, after everybody else had left, and we were out there doing extra work, and we would just say how demanding Larry was and how precise he was. And it was tough at the time, but I look back on those days and I realized how important that was to my development. Going from Indiana, where I played for Larry Bird, who was phenomenal, kind of contrasting styles, more let the players go out and do their thing. To go on to Chicago, where I became, coming from one of the youngest players on the team in Chicago, I'm sorry, in Indiana, to now be the oldest player on the team my second year in Chicago at age 28. I became the captain on that team. I had to become a mentor, similar to what guys like Reggie Miller and Mark Jackson, going back to Eddie Johnson and Ricky Pierce and Chris Mullen. What those guys taught me, now I'm teaching these young guys coming straight from high school, Tyson Chandler and Eddie Curry and guys like that. I can't tell you how important that was for me. To go from being a guy who was young, now I'm responsible. I'm responsible for trying to help these guys learn the ropes of the NBA. That will benefit me in this journey. Playing for Flip Saunders, who's a great offensive mind. Playing for Kevin McHale, Kevin was, in my opinion, the best communicator that I ever played for. He was a guy that told us exactly what was expected of us. And that's how you have to be. You can't have confusion out there on the basketball floor. These guys need to know their roles. They need to know exactly what's expected of them. And they need to go out there and execute the plan on a daily basis. Now, he held us accountable. He didn't go out there a lot of times and grab us by the neck at half court when we were coming off the floor after a mistake was made. He would do it behind closed doors. And what we always did for Kevin when he took over for Flip Saunders at the end of that year, where we had our best part of the best record of that season, is you know, he would hold us accountable, but he'd do it the right way. And I think that I learned a lot from him as well. So I've had all these mentors, all these role models. You know, Johnny or Tim Floyd was outstanding. He came in as well. And I'll take a piece from each one of those guys and put that into my film. And that's what I've been doing. I go to college games to scout, but I also watch the coaches. That's something that I did because I felt one day that I would be coaching. And I watch these guys and how they interact with their players and what they do with timeouts and what plays they call. So yeah, I've put all that up here.